Okay, I think we'll just go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Grace, and I'm the Livestock and Natural Resources Advisor for Siskiyou County Cooperative Extension. Welcome to our final webinar on practical digital marketing strategies for direct-to-consumer ranchers. This webinar is a follow-up to a series of interviews that my colleague Morgan Doran and I conducted with different direct-to-consumer ranchers and local processors in Northern California. And one of the outcomes of that project is that several ranchers requested more resources and support related to marketing strategies. So we're excited to host this webinar series with a direct-to-consumer marketing consultant, Casey Rowe, who some of you met 2 weeks ago on our first webinar. So today, Casey will address the top 3 topics of interest voted on by webinar 1 attendees. So that will be search engine optimization for meat sales, social media strategy, and paid advertising. And just a few reminders before we begin. We definitely encourage your questions. Please post them using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen instead of the chat. So the Q&A has a question mark icon, and I will monitor those questions and share them with Casey as they come in. So please post your question as soon as it comes to mind, and we'll just get it answered in real time. And then we also might have time for open discussion once we're finished with the presentation, and we can unmute folks that have questions at that time. And then look out for a follow-up email from me with resources that Casey mentions during this webinar, including her slides. And we are recording this presentation, and links to both of the webinar recordings will be shared as soon as we're finished editing them. So with that, I'll turn things over to Casey.
Awesome. Thanks, Grace. So welcome back if you were able to join for our part 1, which was a couple weeks ago. And like Grace said, today we're going to dig into the topics that were most of interest as follow-ups and for some advanced content from that first webinar. So I won't do much in the way of introduction since I did this on our part 1 as well, but just a couple of points is that I'm based in North Carolina. So some of the content you'll see, I'm going to use examples from where I work with farmers mostly. And I've been doing this work since 2019, consulting with farmers, ranchers, restaurants, food businesses, universities that have food-focused programs. And one of the clients that I get to work with that has helped me see a lot of farm marketing is MeatSuite, which is a meat farmer directory that is based in New York and North Carolina. But I also wanted to mention it because they have a lot of free farmer tools, such as a meat price calculator, a bundle builder, a lot of helpful tools for farmers. So it's nice for me because I get to see a lot of examples of what farms are doing. But at the same time, it's a good resource for you all as well. So I wanted to mention that as one of the folks that I work with that has connected me with a lot of meat farmers and ranchers. So Grace mentioned our topics for today. And again, feel free to jump into that Q&A tab with your questions so that we can answer those in real time. And I'm going to start digging in. So just a quick kind of review from what we talked about last time is why digital marketing matters. It matters because today's customers are searching and buying online. So what we're here to do is help you create an easy, positive, and informative customer experience. And we talked a lot last time about how your website and online store can help you do that and what kind of the basics are for communication with customers and your presence online as a ranch. So there are a couple things we won't be focusing on today, but I wanted to shout them out in the beginning just because I see these as such an important part of your total kind of online marketing efforts. One is your Google Business Profile, which is a free resource. So I highly encourage making the most of all the features there. And the other is your email marketing, which is really low cost to you. We're going to talk about paid advertising today, but before you get into kind of some of the things that are going to potentially have more of an investment, make sure that you're taking advantage of these really free or low cost resources online. Email marketing is really just the cost of the email marketing software. So and the time, of course, that you take to put together your emails. But that's one that I see as one of the highest converting platforms to spend your time on online when you are looking at your kind of how to parse out your marketing time. So it's really important. It's just not the focus of what we're going to be talking about today, but I wanted to make sure we acknowledge that that's a really important part of your online marketing. So the big picture is reaching customers online. And today, these are the three topics we're going to talk about. And SEO really is focused on capturing customers when they search. Social media is all about meeting customers where they're already spending time. And paid advertising is a great way to boost your results in both of those first two arenas. So these topics all kind of fit together nicely in that flow. And what kind of customers are we trying to reach? So, new customers who might be interested in buying from you, existing customers who need to hear about your latest offerings and be reminded to shop with you. So, both new and existing customers are who we're trying to reach with these online marketing efforts. And another part of the big picture is analytics, because this is what's going to tell you what's working and not working. So, integrate your website and your online store with Google Analytics, Google Ads, and Meta, and of course, the email marketing platform as well. You have to learn from your analytics and do more of what is working for your particular business. One thing I wanted to know on this front is if your storefront is separate from your website, you might miss out on a lot of analytics. So I'll give examples of different platforms throughout, but one I'm thinking of here that I work with some farm clients is Barn to Door. So I have a client who's, they have their website, but all the shopping happens separately in Barn to Door. So we kind of miss out on those analytics through Barn to Door. We don't have analytics for that online store portion of the customer experience. So that's just something to think about when you're thinking about how to set up your website and how is it integrated with your online store. And then, of course, reviewing your metrics on social media, which we're going to touch on today too, because that's a big part of developing your strategy is seeing what's working and doing more of that. And I also wanted to say we're diving into advanced content today. So just as a disclaimer, you may want professional help for some of these topics that we're going to talk about today. Some of them could be a little technical or a little overwhelming. And so, to know from the start that some of these I would recommend having some professional help with. And I would break that down by saying my recommendation would be to try your own hand at social media. You may already be doing that. There's always room for improvement as well. But I find for the farmer to do a lot of the social media makes a lot of sense because you have access to all the content from day to day. If you're not super savvy with social media, you may have a family member or an employee who's interested in helping. It doesn't have to be perfect, just genuine and consistent. And you can learn a lot just by following other farms and emulating what you like, or even non-farm accounts as well. And then depending on tech savvy, on your own tech savvy, you may want to consider paid help with some of the other areas that we're going to talk about, website and online store, email automations and marketing emails, Google Ads, and SEO. At least for the setup of some of these things, like to set up email automations and a template for your marketing email, that might be something you want help with. Similarly with Google Ads, some setup help that then you can turn the ads on and off over time. So just to say, you don't necessarily have to tackle this all on your own. You can have a return on investment that justifies working with a marketing professional. Okay, so digging into kind of our three big topics for today. The first one is SEO for meat sales. So as you probably know, search engine optimization, that's what SEO stands for. And this is basically free visibility earned over time. It helps people find your website in all kinds of searches, whether that's Google, other search engines, AI summaries, which you'll now see at the top of a lot of your Google searches, or voice search using AI. And SEO helps to get your pages to rank higher in the results, or in the case of an AI summary, for instance, it helps for your farm to be mentioned, or it may be your farm's or ranch's website that gets referenced in an AI summary. This SEO includes both your website health as well as your website content. So we're going to dig into that, what that means a little bit. And you can think about different kind of time frames for different types of marketing efforts because with SEO, it's not as instant as paid advertising. It's something that you can improve over time. So if you have an event coming up in a few weeks, a farm event, you may want to consider paid social media advertising for that to make sure your followers see the info about your event. Or if you have a half cow or a whole cow that you're taking orders now, you might want to consider Google Ads where people are ready to buy because they're already searching for those keywords. Whereas SEO is more of a longer game. You're going to make some changes and see the effects of those over time. And I did want to talk about some key trends in SEO. So voice and AI search are growing. Topics like questions people might ask, like, where can I buy local grass-fed beef? That's something that you can design your website to answer questions like that that people might be asking, particularly with your FAQ. You could be asking and answering that question, as in, where can I buy local grass-fed beef? Right here, we offer, and then describe what your offering is. That fits into the category of structured data or schema, and that helps Google and AI read your site. So there's FAQ is one part of that. Another part is your product schema. So what's included in that would be the name of your product, a description, a price, whether it's in and out of stock, an image, and reviews. So those are all the types of things that you want to be including into each one of your products. And one note about price, this is where I'll mention another platform. The issue of price kind of presents a different trade-off with some platforms, like GrazeCart is what I'm thinking of, for instance, because GrazeCart has a cool benefit where you can set up different prices for your products based on location. So farm pickup could be cheaper than local delivery or shipping. But what that triggers is basically someone has to create an account before they see your prices. So although it's really cool that you get this flexibility to price your products by location, at the same time, it doesn't show the price to the robots who will be looking at your website and trying to identify this product schema. So that's just a trade-off to consider when you're thinking about how to set up your site. It doesn't necessarily mean that your site wouldn't rank or you aren't going to get sales. You definitely can do both of those things, but it will be kind of one little knock against you that your prices aren't necessarily visible to Google when it views your site. Local SEO matters. Google Business Profile, we've talked about how that's really key, and using country, city, and region names to help customers find meat near them. So that's really important, and we'll talk about incorporating those kind of geographical names into your keyword research and into your website. And the big picture is authority, trust, and reputation. That's what Google and search engines are going based off of, and it's also what AI is going based off of in terms of whether or not your ranch is going to show up in search results. So you want to make sure you have helpful content, truly helpful content, easy to navigate content, as well as reviews, mentions, and backlinks, which we'll get into a little bit more. The foundations of SEO, the first one is your kind of technical SEO. So that's how does your website actually function? It should be easy to use. It should be fast loading. And when we think about fast loading, a couple things to consider. Your e-commerce platform, and this is one where I'll kind of give a specific as well. One platform I don't recommend as far as the loading is Barn to Door, because I've noticed with the farms that I work with, the load times are terrible. And I have really fast internet, and it's kind of painfully slow to see all the products load. And so if you have a customer or someone coming to your site who's on slower internet or who is coming for the first time, they may just navigate away because it takes so long for the page to load. So that's just really my personal experience. And then image sizes. This is something that you can do no matter what your platform is. Keep the images on your site under 1 MB. Keeping those image sizes small will help your page load faster, which is really important for SEO. Your website should be mobile friendly. If you have your analytics set up, you'll see that usually a majority of people are coming on their phones to your website. They're not coming through their computer. So you want to make sure that you view your mobile version of your website and everything functions properly. You can easily navigate around. Everything is looking good on the page. All the information is there. That's really key. And then the website is clearly structured. The navigation's easy to understand. The links go to the places people would expect. You don't have a lot of broken links, anything like that. And the tool to help you analyze this is Google Search Console, which is free. So that can help you identify any issues with your site. Another foundation of SEO is link building. So the more credible sites that point to your site, the better. So join local directories, ask local organizations or farm cooperatives to list your farm. I see a lot of good benefit from being at farmers markets and having those markets on their website. They link to your ranch's website. That can be really helpful. You can pitch local press with a story about your farm. And one little hack as well is to respond to Reddit or Quora threads that have to do with buying local meat. I'll often see for our area, people will ask, like, where can I buy a whole cow in the triangle? And a bunch of answers will be given, but you can make sure either yourself or even better would be a friend, a family, or a trusted customer. Ask them to respond and recommend your ranch in the answers. And this actually helps your SEO because it's a trusted source that's pointing to your site. Okay, so now the kind of advanced part of SEO beyond just the basics of having a well-functioning site um, is digging into the keyword research and implementation. And so these are kind of the three big steps that we can break this down into. The first would be researching keywords using Google Ads Keyword Planner. And I wanted to make a quick note about that. You can make a Google Ads account before you plan to get started with advertising, and that would give you access to the keyword planner. I did just want to note that a lot of times you can actually get a $500 incentive from Google. So it's usually like a spend 500 within the first couple months, and you'll get a $500 credit, which is a great way to start out with your advertising. But I just wanted to mention that because you should, in that case, be prepared to run an ad pretty soon after you create your account. So you might want to do it at a time that you're ready to do that research and get an ad going pretty quickly thereafter, just to make sure you don't miss out on that credit for yourself. And then the second part would be choosing primary keywords and secondary keywords that you're going to try to target on each page. And the third will be incorporating those keywords into your metadata title and description. That's sort of the back end settings of the page, as well as the on-page settings. That's like your H1 heading. Each page has one H1 heading, and you want to incorporate your primary keyword into there. And then additional subheadings as well. I put AI opportunity on this because a lot of this process, there are steps throughout that AI can help you, whether it's generating keywords that you can put into your research or helping you come up with, for instance, metadata titles that meet the 60 character limit. There's a lot that AI can do to help you with ideas, at least, even if you refine it on your own. So last time we looked at some keyword research for the Siskiyou region specifically, but today I wanted to share a real example that I'm working on for a North Carolina farmer. And so I started this process with listing keyword phrases that I could think of that had to do with different species that they raise, that had to do with specific cuts, and then incorporating geography such as the cities, towns, counties, or the region that we're working in. And then I put hundreds of those keyword phrases. Oh, and then I asked AI to help me fill out a list of 500 of those keywords. So find the gaps in what I had created and then put those into the Google Ads keyword planner. And many of those keywords didn't have any search volume at all. So those aren't shown here. I'm just showing you basically the top search volume for our local area of keywords. And so you can see from the top in the average monthly searches, we have the highest and then starting to rank downwards to lower monthly average searches. And then what I'm looking for in this research is keyword opportunities. So keywords that have a higher search volume or at least a decent search volume, and then they have low or medium competition. So I didn't even include here any that have high competition because other big companies are probably putting their advertising budget into those high competition terms, and that would be really hard for a small business to compete with. And then I'm also looking for balancing search volume. So we want something with a good search volume, but also with purchase intent. So looking at the keywords, thinking about, is this something that someone would search when they actually are ready to buy local meat? So if we look at like regenerative agriculture, for instance, that's a more broad term that people could be searching that for many reasons, versus something like grass-fed beef farm. That one, it's hard to imagine why they would be searching other than wanting to make a purchase. So we want to look for the ones that have a good purchase intent. And then finally, how natural is the phrase to incorporate into your site? The phrases that have near me are, a lot of them are great in terms of the search volume and the competition, but they're a little bit more clunky to try to incorporate. If you try to imagine that they should be incorporated in real sentences or real phrases, it's a bit hard to do that with near me. So there are some opportunities for that, but they might not be what I would choose for a primary keyword just because of that difficulty of incorporating them naturally. And this is one more way of looking at the data. This is using a tool called SEMrush. And then I put that into a spreadsheet and combined it with some info from Google as well. SEMrush is an interesting, helpful SEO tool, but it's very expensive, so it's probably not necessary for the average small business. It's like $130 a month. But what I do like about it is that it shows what the site is currently ranking for, which is really interesting to see. And it also shows some things that Google doesn't necessarily display. Like, as you can see, it shows AI overviews. So these are where this site would already be ranking in AI overviews, as well as just organic and organic search. And another cool thing that it does is it shows the intent. So there's a column here for intent, which breaks down, is this more of an informational search, navigational, commercial, or transactional? And for the most part, we would love to be in commercial or transactional where people are interested in buying. So that gives you another lens into which keywords you might want to focus on. Now, of course, it's awesome that this site is ranking. It has the first position for searches for many of these terms like best, meat, CSA, and North Carolina. But when you combine that with the Google information about search volume, that term actually doesn't have any average monthly search volume available. So it's probably not something that a lot of people are actually searching. So it doesn't have as much value to us. So we want to combine terms that have a good search volume as well as terms that we already are doing a good job at ranking. And this is basically when you're looking at an existing site and you might want to make some tweaks. We don't want to change things that would reduce our ability to rank for things we're already doing well ranking for. But at the same time, we definitely need to focus on the ones that really truly have search volume. And then keyword implementation. So we just have this and one more kind of on-page SEO topic, and that will wrap up our focus for SEO for right now. So if you have any questions, definitely get ready with those regarding SEO. So I won't go through all of this, but this is basically my next step after I do that keyword research. I want to build the keywords into the site. So I want to choose a primary keyword for each page. So for the home page, we're choosing poultry farm. That had a high search volume and low competition. And then build that into the metadata title. So for this site, it would be Carolina Pastures, NC pastured poultry farm with delivery. And then with a metadata description that hits some of our secondary keywords like fresh local meat farms, small farm meat delivery. So we would say we raise GMO-free pastured chicken, turkey, duck, pork, and beef. We offer fresh local meat delivery to Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and nearby areas. Now, this is just an example. There's many ways that we could have crafted this. And this is another place that I recommend using AI to help you. You can say, this is my primary keyword, here's my secondary keywords. What would you recommend for metadata title and description, keeping within the limits of characters for each. So this is just to give a sense of kind of the process of from research to implementation. And the final step here would be to think about your on-page SEO. So this is a helpful graphic by Renzo Prano, who I actually got connected with through one of the SCORE webinars that I'll mention later. But I really liked this graphic because it helps lay out on the page where do you want to be incorporating your keywords. Everything from your title tag that would show up in a tab to your URL, where you actually want to put your primary key phrase that you're going for in the URL. Your H1 heading, there should be one of those per page. Your images can even reinforce your keywords with their file name and their alt text. And then using additional headings to hit some of your secondary keywords as well, and using the body text to hit your keywords. So this is kind of how you continue to incorporate those into the actual page on your website. So of course we could have done like hours just on SEO, but I'm trying to give an advanced look, but also hit a few topics here today. So if there are any questions for SEO, we could dig into those now. Otherwise, we can go on to our next topic.
Yeah, Casey, I have two questions that I can read to you, and then if anyone else wants to post in the Q&A, feel free. So the first is, do you need to use the entire keyword phrase, or is just a combination of words enough? So for example, if you have the word beef and the word local on your website, does that count as the phrase local beef?
So it is more specific to phrases. So having local and beef on your website definitely will help you in some ways to establish that presence for both of those topics. But when it comes to SEO and keyword and even what's called long tail keywords, so that might be like 5 words strung together, like best meet CSA in North Carolina, for instance, you do have to have that full key phrase included as it shows up in the research. And when you do the research, you'll get a little bit comfortable with that idea because you'll see that some things that could even be close to each other won't have the same type of results. So if I'm trying to think of what an example could be for that, but like if I put local meat farms Raleigh, that might have, not show any search volume, but local meat farms on its own, that is a keyword that is having volume here. So you really do need to follow, this when you choose your keywords, you want to see specifically for that string of words, what's the search volume, what's the competition, and then when you choose those keywords, you do want to incorporate them as they are with that specific, 4 or 5 words in a row. Of course, throughout the website, you may do have a lot more content that just happens to hit on those keywords too, and it's reinforcing. But as far as hitting your particular keywords and key phrases, you want to use those specifically.
Cool, that makes sense. Thank you. And then I had one clarifying question. It looked like in a couple slides ahead of this, you were intentionally using keywords in the URL for each page. Is that what's happening here?
Exactly. Yep. So this is a real farms website that we're working on now, and we are actually going to change the URLs because in the past they would just have like carolinapastures.com/collection/chicken. But there's enough benefit to trying to hit the keyword of local pastured chicken to actually build that into the URL. It's another way of reinforcing kind of the authority on that keyword is having it in the actual URL. And so if you ever change your URLs, part of this process is you need the prior URL to redirect to the new one. And a good step at the end, after you've changed a lot of URLs, on the Google Search Console, you can upload your sitemap so that Google does a new scan of your website to make sure that, eventually they would do that anyway, but by uploading your sitemap, you can have them review your site more quickly to build those changes in.
Cool. Thank you. That's all the questions for now.
Awesome. All right, so a bit of a change of pace is talking about our next topic, which is social media strategy. And then we're going to kind of tie it all back together at the end with paid advertising, which can apply to both SEO and social media. So I wanted to, when it comes to social media, start with what I think a lot of people feel is the challenges of social media. And you're not crazy for feeling this way because the facts really bear this out, that it's harder to grow your accounts now on social media, particularly on Facebook and Instagram. Organic reach has decreased significantly. So that means people who would naturally see your content without you paying for them to see it. Um, Only a fraction of your page's fans see your content organically. And even I was surprised, but it does kind of bear out in how it feels when you're posting on social media, I think, that on Facebook, about 2 to 6% of your followers will naturally see your post. And on Instagram, about 4 to 7%. And some of the estimates are really on the low end of those ranges, even. And so that just means that it is harder to reach even those people who are following you. For one thing, there's so much volume on social media now that it's harder to stand out. And also, the algorithm favors trends like trending music, but also paid advertising. It's really in their interest that you should pay for people to see the content. So there's definitely a preference toward that boosted content. As well, engagement overall is lower, a lot of scrolling, but maybe not as much interacting with the actual content. And of course, I'm sure people have experienced that it's really time consuming, and it can be like kind of creatively draining. It does take a lot of effort to make something unique for social media. So we're going to talk today about a couple different strategies, but I wanted to highlight kind of that challenge. And to me, it also highlights the value of email marketing, which is that you own your list. And when I think about these percentages, I'm thinking about emails that you send where you can have 30, 40, 50% of the people on your list easily open your email. And so as far as the time and effort it takes to create that content, it's just nice to know that more percentage of those people would be seeing it. So that's why another reason why to me email marketing is really valuable these days. But regardless of that, we're going to talk about what we can do on social. So the first of two strategies that I'll talk about is a really kind of practical approach, making the most of all the tools that are available within each platform and kind of honing in our efforts as well. With the focus being on building trust, kind of showing off your business, showing off your products, and specifically generating sales because for my farmers, I really like to see the time spent result in actual purchases. So using social media in tandem with other strategies and potentially narrowing in on one or two platforms if you're going for this practical approach. So Instagram and Facebook have the most local focus. If you're selling locally and doing only local delivery, for instance, those would be my recommendations of where to put your time and effort. I find particularly valuable Facebook groups, which we'll talk a little bit more about on the next slide. As far as frequency, posting and responding consistently, but that could be as little as 1 to 2 times a week in terms of an actual post or a video. I would say even if you do a little bit less, you're not trying to do a post or video daily, once or twice a week is good, but put intention into what people are actually going to interact with. So make it something that people really will be interested to engage with. And then to supplement that, I see stories on Instagram, which can repost to Facebook as well, really as a low-hanging fruit because this is one of the ways you can show off the farm, build trust. All it takes is a simple photo when you're out doing something on the ranch that day, or you're in the cooler, or you're doing deliveries. Take a photo or take a short little video Show yourself, show your farm practices. You should be able to, I think, do that daily or every other day. So it's a way of staying top of mind. A lot of people spend a lot of their time on Instagram in the stories anyway. Maybe they aren't scrolling that much. They're spending a lot of time at the top in the stories. So this is a great way to very quickly um, put some content out there for people that does help build trust about your brand. And then make the most of your content on multiple platforms. One nice thing about Instagram and Facebook is that there are so many ways to post between them. So you don't have to um, necessarily do everything in two different places. So that's another benefit of choosing those two platforms. So this is going to be in a handout that you'll get as well. And the people who attended the first webinar have already received this, but just a quick run through of an efficient setup for social media marketing. It's worth taking some time to get yourself together with a spreadsheet so that each week when you post something, you can just use these resources that you've already compiled. So I create a spreadsheet with a tab for each of these. Facebook groups. So if you're looking locally, choose the groups in the area that you serve. They might be geographically oriented, like for a city, a town, or a county. Especially good ones are focused on foodies or eating local or supporting small businesses. And I did a quick search, and for Siskiyou, I found the Siskiyou County Grapevine, which does allow small businesses to post, and it has a large subscriber base as well. So that's something you could be posting once a week, something that your ranch has to offer. Of course, you have to note the group rules. And I find that it's not really worthwhile. Certain groups limit, like you can only post on the comments on this Small Business Monday post or something like that. Not really worthwhile for your time. So it should be one that lets small businesses make a post to the actual feed of the group. And then next would be accounts that you could tag or collaborate with. So make yourself a list of the handles of all the organizations, farmers markets, foodie accounts, tourism accounts, anyone who might repost your content or be willing to engage in a collaboration with you as well. And then hashtags. I like to use these ones for practices, for instance, can just be a supplement to the content of your post. So maybe you don't talk about every farm practice in every caption, but if you put hashtag pasture raised, that reminds people of your practices. And probably the most valuable would be the geographical hashtags. So if you serve Sacramento, hashtag Sacramento, or even better, hashtag Sacramento food. So you're focusing in on those foodies in that particular area. And usually each city or county will have some traction. You're looking for the hashtags that have the most amount of posts on them. So play around in Instagram, searching some of those hashtags and see if you can combine the location that you serve with some element of like food or foodies. That's a good one to be using. Okay, generating sales on social media. So this is sort of a little bit of like a flow of what I would do for a client typically. So we would have a post that goes to both Instagram and Facebook, and this is how it might look in each place. We would have a message that is enticing and that includes tags, for instance, if they'll be at a farmer's market, because hopefully that market will repost this content, as well as a link to order. Now, that really only works on Facebook, but we do want to include an order link in the Facebook content. And then on Facebook, I would go to the comments and I would tag @followers, and I would do a little reiteration of whatever the message is with the order link again, because by doing this, more of your followers will see your post. It's kind of like a little hack where if they log into Facebook, they will at least see a notification that your farm posted this message. Sorry, I always say farm. I know you probably mostly say ranch. I think that's just a geographical difference. And then the next step would be go back a day or two after your post has been made and click on the heart or the thumbs up to see who has liked your page, and make sure that you take advantage of this feature where if they don't already follow your page, you click invite to invite them. And usually you'll see within a pretty quick amount of time, you'll get a notification that some of those people have actually gone ahead and followed your page. And then the final step would be from this original post, Share that post. On the post, you'll see a little arrow with share, and then share that to all the Facebook groups that you've already compiled your list of. Put a little, you don't have to reiterate the whole message, but you can say, like, um, we're delivering forest raised pork sausage this week, and use that little message and repost it into that group because you're putting the effort into this content, and the goal is to get as many eyes on it as possible. And Facebook groups are a good way to do that. And then this is just kind of a little series of tips on making the most of the content on Instagram. So one reason you might post separately on Instagram and on Facebook is to, even if you're using similar photos, is to use the extra features in Instagram. So adding your location. Sometimes I'll add the location of the farm, but I'll also make a point to add other locations that we serve. So even if I was in Siskiyou County, I would put Sacramento as the location on some of them if I served that area. Add music, look for trending music. As you're scrolling on Instagram, save the videos that you like as an example and save the audio that you like so that when it comes time to post, you don't have to dig around in all the music. You already have some options that you've saved for yourself. Add your hashtags and then invite collaborators. That's a powerful tool. You can see on this post, for instance, we invited the farmers market that they would be at who did accept the collaboration. So that means that the post is not only seen by our audience, but also their audience as well. That's a powerful tool because, as we talked about, only a small percentage of our audience is going to see this. So we want to expand that as much as possible to get more eyeballs on it. And this post, just something different and fun, was a conversation with the processor who had just processed this farmer's beef and was complimenting it. So something we wanted to share with our audience because she was so proud of that. Stories. So we mentioned you can really only easily share your link on your Facebook post. That doesn't really work on Instagram, but the place that it does work is on stories. So make sure you use the button to add a link, send them to your website to purchase whatever thing you're talking about. And then also tagging partner accounts on stories. You may put them on your posts, but even better sometimes is to put them on your story if you're going to add a link there. If you put your partner accounts that you're hoping will repost for you on your stories, they can easily repost the story and your story will have the order button on there. So in some ways on Instagram, that's even a better place to add those tags. And then use the extra features like polls, quizzes, questions to build interaction because the more people interact with your content, the more likely Instagram is to show your content to more people. So you have to build that momentum of interaction. And then because you're doing all this hard work on your stories, make sure that you curate your best stories into your profile highlights. So when someone does end up on your profile, they can see these categories that show what your business is about, and they can experience a lot of those stories that you've posted in the past that otherwise they wouldn't be able to see anymore. A really powerful tool because what I've noticed is with a lot of accounts, if you're not actively paying to boost some of your content, over time, you can even see your following decrease, which is really demoralizing. But one of the ways I've found to combat that, that actually can gain you a bunch of followers at one time, is to do collaborations. So I would suggest giving away some of your product in exchange for collaboration posts and giveaways. So you might find a partner who, let's say it's like a local foodie account, you would offer them, okay, we would love to give you $100 of our meat if you'd be willing to make a video, either coming to the farm, make the video, or just make a video cooking with the meat. That would be the first part of the collaboration. And then we'll do a giveaway together and we'll put up another $100 of meat for the giveaway winner. So that's $200 of product. But if you choose a partner with a decent sized following, maybe up to 10,000 followers, that could be a great way, a very worthwhile $200. When you require people to enter the giveaway to follow your account, it's going to help you gain those local foodie followers that you're looking for. And so I just put here a bunch of ideas of folks that you could partner with. But the key would be to find some local businesses, local foodie accounts, people who have the type of audience that you're looking for, And this is an example of a giveaway that we did for Meat Sweet. So, because we focus entirely on meat, we partnered with a business, local seafood, that focuses entirely on North Carolina seafood and did a surf and turf giveaway. And one of the cool things that we did with this, because I keep talking about the power of your email list, we had bonus points for anyone who joined. We set up a form, and anyone who entered their email to join both of our lists would earn bonus entries for doing that. So, a way of connecting social with email and gaining those emails for our future marketing. And that can produce great results. This one, we had 1,000 friends tag each other on the post. We gained 160 follows and 200 email signups. Okay, and so I said I would present two different strategies. So the second really is a strategy focused on growth. I would say I feel like this takes more time. It takes more interest in social media and interest in experimenting and improving and building your skills over time. So that may or may not be for you, but I wanted to present that as an option. So if you're feeling stagnant in your social media, I would say it's time to experiment. Especially if you have a national audience in the sense that you might ship or serve a wider audience, I would recommend trying TikTok and YouTube Shorts as well. I'm finding it easier to connect with a new audience on those platforms and easier to get views, even if you don't have a big following yet. If you just hit the topic right, you can still get a lot of views onto those videos. And sometimes it kind of defies logic, like a video will do really well on one platform and not at all on the other. But seeing what does well where, when you are able to get some traction and trying to replicate that. Um, and one thing I wanted to highlight that you probably have experienced if you spend much time on social media, having a focus that's really niche and a repeatable format seems to create this social media magic. So I wanted to give an example which has nothing to do with ranching at all. But it's this account I follow called Stick Nation, which is like hugely popular. And it's an account just about sticks. And so people submit videos, which always start with like, "What's up, Stick Nation?" or "Hello, Stick Nation." And then they just present a stick that they've found in whatever location that they're in. It's so niche, it's so weird, but it has this huge traction. And so thinking about kind of what's the ranch version of that, um, which would be something great to spend time creatively thinking about. But I just came up with a few ideas. Maybe it's drone footage of moving your animals, and then you always put a dramatic nature doc voiceover on it, or a series where you do one cut, one recipe. So every week you pull out one cut, you describe it, you show it raw, and then you cook it with a simple recipe, or an Ask a Rancher series. So you sit with your boots up, maybe always in the same place on the farm, or maybe you move around the farm, but keep something consistent to it. And then you answer one question from your followers, or do funny voiceovers for your animals. These are just ideas, but the theory is to find something niche, find something repeatable where you always start with the same phrase, or you are in the same place, or you have something consistent that you string along from video to video. And here's kind of some more things to strive for. So hitting that hyper specific value where you're speaking to one type of person and solving one kind of problem, having a hook in the first 3 seconds, a question, something surprising, or a bold claim, having something relatable or counterintuitive. Like you don't need a giant chest freezer to buy a half cow. You just need 7 cubic feet and a plan. Making your videos into series, breaking big ideas into small episodes. If you are going for growth, then you want volume, like posting once a day on TikTok, on YouTube, Shorts, and you want that consistency where you're showing up regularly with new content. Engaging like a human, and by that I mean replying to comments, every comment, asking questions, and trying to create a sense of community. Um, uh, let's see, trying multiple styles and repeating what works. So if you spend all the time to create a cooking video, using it in several ways, you might make one where it shows the full process of the recipe, with only music and text that you put on the screen about what you're doing. Then do one that's a voiceover. Then try putting those clips into a trending template. Do a long version, do a short version. Play around with it and see what gets you the most traction and then repeat that format. And use the platform's tools. So, like Stitch, for instance, that's where you can integrate a clip from another video. Duet is where you can split screen with another video. Use trending sounds. I always recommend using captions for any content where someone's speaking because a lot of people are going to look at your video without sound on. So make sure you have those captions so they can still understand what's going on and engaged with the video. And then I would recommend because sometimes you do have a hit of a video, and that doesn't necessarily translate to followers. So I like to put the website briefly at the end of a video, just because if someone, let's say you end up with a really popular video, but they don't follow you from that, at least they will have seen your brand and seen your website if you include that quickly at the end.
Casey, do you have time for a quick clarifying question?
Yeah, please.
So this is about the suggestion to tag followers when you're notifying people of a new social post. So is the at followers added in the comments or is it actually tagged to the post? And does that work for both Facebook and Instagram?
Yes, so this one, it's only for Facebook. I don't know why they created this particular tool, but they did. And it only started probably like a year or two ago that you were able to do this, but it's for your Facebook post. You go to the comments of your post as if you were leaving a comment on your own post, and you start to type. If you type at follower, you'll see it pull up, and it's like a bunch of different things will pull up, but one of them will look different. It'll be kind of like a grayed out version that just says at followers, and that's the whole thing. And that is this particular tool that you can use to send your followers an alert that you posted.
Cool. And we might, oh no, it looks like accidental hand raise. That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, and we just have one or two more here on social media, and then we'll have more time for questions and talk about paid advertising as well. So I've just put a few examples of videos that we've done for Meet Suite that happen to strike a chord with people and be popular videos. The first one, and why I'm sharing this is I'm always trying to investigate like what resonated with people about this. Why did this one do well in comparison to others? The first one was the simple question of what's the difference between lamb and mutton, and just a farmer explaining that difference. And this had like 62,000 views on TikTok. And I think that the reason it struck a chord with people is just because it is very specific and it's something that people are genuinely confused about. Like a lot of the comments were like, I thought mutton was goat meat, which is true. But people didn't necessarily understand this distinction. They had a lot of confusion about this and they were interested and they were like, wow, thanks. I never knew this difference. Um, Another one was talking with a farmer about their freezer costs. And this one, I used an AI generated title. So that's something to think about if you are trying to think of like, what's a title that's really going to like stop people in their scrolling and make them interested in my video. Ask AI to help you generate 10 different ones and see if you like any of those or any of them seem really eye-catching. And I think that's what caught people's attention with this one. Is kind of the eye-catching title and the fact that they never really thought about this particular expense for farmers. Um, and then finally, this one that we did on a ham steak, which was just a cooking video with music over it. So I think it had that like food ASMR calm vibe, which is one vibe to go for. And then I think maybe also the nostalgia component. There's like a whole thing called grandma core on TikTok. And so this one with the old fashioned in the title, maybe it kind of hit on that like homesteady or nostalgia feeling as well. And that one, I noticed a lot of people saved that one, like 44 people saved that video. And that makes me think, okay, it might actually be because they want to try cooking this recipe, and it's something they hadn't seen before. Some tools and resources for social media. One is just if you're going for this growth mentality and you're trying to improve and gain new followers, I recommend learning for free on YouTube. There's an account I liked when I was first like dabbling in food photography and food video called The Bite Shot. She's a professional photographer and videographer, and so she has a lot of helpful videos that are like shooting with your iPhone, Food Video 101. So that's just a good resource for learning. And having your own video editing apps on your phone. You could use VN or CapCut. That's two good options. CapCut has a lot of good trending themes because that's integrated with TikTok. Um, but the reason this is so important is I do not like to edit videos in Instagram for a couple of reasons. One, you can't really revisit your video and re-edit it, which is something you might want to do in the future if you decide to join another platform. You want to be able to go back and re-edit those videos and make them what you want for that new platform. And then also with Instagram, you probably notice if you build your video there and then you want to save it, it's going to put that watermark, the Instagram watermark on your video, which is really annoying because you might want to take it to another platform and now it doesn't look as fresh on that platform. It's obvious that you brought it over from somewhere else. So edit your videos in these apps so that you are the owner of your video. You can revisit it and edit it again how you want. Um, One kind of physical tool that I recommend is a gimbal, which is what's shown here. This is a tool that helps you steady your video. So it just makes everything look more professional. If you're in the kitchen cooking, doing a recipe video, it can actually track you and follow you around, which is really nice. If you're in the field, you can be walking through the field, filming yourself or your animals, and it's going to keep that video looking steady and professional. And they aren't that expensive either. And then finally, Canva Pro. Some of the posts that I even showed are just using stock photos. Of course, if you are the farmer and you have the ability to take some decent looking photos, I feel like that's always the best, is to show your real product. But in the case that you don't have time or you're like, this is really not a skill I have, don't be shy to use some good looking stock photos or videos from Canva, which is really affordable compared to other tools. So that's oh, I think I just have one more note, which is that I'll provide these checklists that will help you with your social media setup and like a pared down, simplified, practical weekly and monthly to-do list. So those will be resources that will be coming at you. And Grace, are there any more questions for social media?
We don't have any questions at the moment.
Okay, cool. Well, our last little section is on paid advertising.
Actually, Casey, one did just come in.
Yeah.
So this question is, what about editing videos in TikTok or taking videos or talking videos in TikTok?
Okay, so editing in TikTok, I don't mind the idea of editing in TikTok as much just because it does let you save a copy to your phone with no watermark. So at the very least, you are able to take that video, for instance, over to Instagram and it won't be obvious that you had made it somewhere else. However, CapCut and TikTok basically have the same features. It's the same company that offers those two apps. I would use CapCut just because then you can return to your video and edit it. So when you're editing a video in CapCut, if you download it, that's great, but you can also go back to the edited version. So you'll still, instead of having to like start by making new clips or something like that, if you wanted to edit it, the version you would already have in CapCut, you can just work with those clips the way you've already made them, swap out the music, anything you want to do, add different titles for a different platform. So I would still recommend CapCut. If like some people, there's a lot of like political stuff around TikTok and will it stay in the US or won't it? So for a while I was like, maybe I shouldn't use CapCut because that could get banned eventually and I would lose those videos. So an alternative to that is VN. VN, I feel like it doesn't have as many of the cool trending templates, but it does basically everything else that you need. And I'll say one thing I often do is I'll build the whole video in CapCut. And then when I go to TikTok, I'll add the captions there because CapCut won't let you, it'll give you like one free captions a month without the pro version, but TikTok lets you generate all the captions that you want. So that's usually my process. Build it in CapCut, bring it to TikTok, add the captions, and then post it there first. Then you get a clean version saved to your phone with no watermarks, and then I'll bring that over to Instagram, Facebook Reels, and YouTube Shorts.
Cool. So it sounds like regardless of where you're posting this content, you recommend that folks take videos and edit videos in a separate, using a separate tool that allows like cross posting and saving of content.
Yes. And as far as taking the videos, I just use the native app on my phone. So I have an iPhone, so I just use like the Apple camera. Everything saves to my Photos app on my phone. And then I import those, the ones that I want to use, I import that into the CapCut.
Great. Thanks, Casey. That's it for now.
Cool. Thanks. Okay, so paid advertising is our last little section here. Um, so as far as where to spend your advertising dollars, I feel like that's the big question. If you have a budget, even a small budget, how do you want to allocate that online? And I would say the primary goals, I want to drive people to my website. I want them to create an account if that's the process on the site, or to capture their email. And the goal of both of those is to be able to communicate with them in the future. With the email sign up, I would recommend on your website, not necessarily hitting them with a pop-up the second they get to the site, because again, you want to like build a little bit of trust before you hit them with a request. But a good way to do that is an exit intent pop-up. So that basically detects when they're about to leave your site. And at that point, you can have a pop-up that gives them some kind of offer, like a 10% off coupon for their first purchase, something that you're going to email them, like your 10 favorite ranch recipes, or even just a like, don't miss out on updates from the ranch. So make sure you have some way to capture emails before you put the money into sending people to your website. And then the second big goal, and really the biggest goal, is purchases, because I like to see that the advertising dollars pay off in actual purchases. So with both Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, and Google Ads, you can track conversions, you can target conversions. With an online store, and if you have a limited budget, I'm currently prioritizing Google Ads for my clients. We'll talk about some uses that are particularly good for social media, but I like that on Google, I've seen that you can start with a budget as small as $5 a day, $150 a month, and that could be periodic throughout the year as well. So you could choose 3 months that are your key times that you want to turn your ads on. You don't have to be running it the whole year, but depending on your budget, I think it does produce results to spend $5 a day throughout the year or more, obviously. And so I included this example that just shows the ROI from one of my clients, spending around 600, gaining around 1,800 in purchases or sales. To me, that obviously feels worthwhile. And another nice part about it is you're not only gaining those purchases, but you are also gaining account signups or emails that you can communicate with in the future. This is a little bit of a breakdown of kind of social media versus Google strengths and weaknesses. So in terms of Facebook and Instagram, thinking about the audience intent, a lot of times, they don't have the intent on social media necessarily to shop. Plenty of people do shop there, or get inspired to buy something there, but it's a lower intent compared to Google, where they're searching a particular term like, where can I find local farm beef near me? As far as the customer journey on social media, we're kind of at the top or the middle of the funnel, like just getting introduced to your brand, just starting to build trust with them. Whereas on Google, they're ready to buy, they're searching for a particular product. Now, of course, if they come and they buy from you right away, you want that to be a good experience. You want the product to speak for itself in terms of, it's what they expect, it's delicious, they want to come back for more. So if your first interaction with them does end up being a purchase, which is awesome, just make sure that that the experience is something that they want to return for as well. And then the cost. So social media can definitely be cheaper by the click. Although I do notice, like on Facebook, a lot of times the results for click versus landing page view will be really different. So that means to me that sure, a lot of people clicked, but they didn't even stay long enough for the page to load. So do look into the details of kind of what you're getting for that kind of cost per click. And then use cases, I think there are some really good uses for social media ads. Obviously, if you have a big budget, being in both places is great. But if you're, looking at a narrow budget, some of the times it might really pay off on social media would be farm events because you can make an event on Facebook and boost that event. Particular promotions that you really want to get the word out and make sure more percentage of your followers actually see that information, like a big restock announcement, and then also building your following. So I do find that you can be building your following more so if you are paying for people to see your content on social media. At the same time, you want to make sure those followers, I like to kind of click around when people are following me from an ad and just try to make sure, like, are these real people? Are they in my area? Make sure that what you're getting as far as followers are actually meaningful followers for you.
One question for you, Casey.
Yep.
Do you think it's possible to be successful as a direct-to-consumer business using only Google Ads and a good website, no social media?
I do think that is possible. Yeah, I definitely do think that's possible. I think with social media, the value of it is kind of a trust building, as in, like, some people might expect that businesses would have a social media. So a lot of times, if I'm a consumer, I will go to their website and I'll look for, like, where's the link to their Instagram, or, to make sure this is like a legitimate business, even I might look them up on Instagram. Or to, let's say it's like a local restaurant. Usually the most up-to-date info is on Instagram, like if they have a closure or something like that. So I do feel like they work in tandem, but I think by having a great store and Google Ads to drive people there, you could potentially get away with no social media, or you could have like a more minimal focus on social media, not posting as often, still having an account kind of for that legitimacy. I think could be a good idea, even if you're only doing a post once a week or it's not the main way you're trying to connect with people. The other reason I feel like social media is helpful is just for your existing customers to remind them to buy. But I think email marketing can do a great job of that as well. Um, so, yeah, in a perfect world, you would probably have some presence on social media as well. But I don't think it at all is a 100% requirement to sell meat.
Cool. Thank you.
Um, So digging into Google Ads a little bit more, and again, this is where it can start to get into like a little bit advanced of content that you might want some help with your setup. But one option that might not require that is the first campaign type listed here. Really, these three that are in yellow are probably the main types you'd be going for. The other one I would highlight would be shopping, because if you do have an online store with shipping, you can put your products into the shopping tab of Google. So that could potentially be a good opportunity for someone who's really savvy with these online tools. But a most basic place to start would be a smart campaign, which is really good for beginners and has quick setup and still displays in a lot of places like search, map, display, and YouTube as well. Search is kind of in more limited places, but it is capturing high intent traffic. You don't have to have as many assets, which I'll get into in a minute what an asset is, but you don't have to have as many photos and videos and all of that content to do a search ad. So that could be a good option if you haven't created all this media around your brand yet. But my ultimate goal usually for folks is to get to a Performance Max campaign because this can display in so many places. And it's kind of like an all-in-one automation where you're targeting purchase conversions. You want people to make a purchase on your site. And it has some good built-in features as well, like local targeting. So some automatically it will help you target people asking for directions to your business or calls to your business. If that's something you want, you can turn it on or off. But it has some of those local features as well. So the setup essentials, we talked about you want your Google business profile, take advantage of all the features there. You want a Google Analytics account and a Google Ads account. That's kind of the basic platforms to be set up on. And then this is another place where your keyword research comes in handy. If you've already done that for SEO, you're in a good position. Or maybe you start here with Google Ads and then you also are realizing, oh, this would actually be good terms to incorporate into my website as well to improve my SEO. Um, if you have an online store, you're trying to get those conversion purchases. If you don't have an online store, maybe you're only doing bulk meat and you have a lead form, and that would be like you're collecting their name, their email, their phone number, and what product are they interested in, half beef, a whole beef. And so leads could be another thing that you're targeting, for instance, if you didn't have an online store. We talked about collecting emails and some of the other conversions that Google can add. And then, of course, and this is true for social media and Google, choosing your geographical target. That's one of the best things about this type of digital advertising is you can narrow down to zip codes. You can choose a city and put a radius around it. There's different ways, but make sure that you're targeting your geography to the areas that you actually serve. That's one of the big benefits. This would be an example of in Performance Max, you can have asset groups. Um, and the goal would be to work on your asset group until you reach this excellent status. And the ways that you'll be able to do that is by adding images, video, headlines. There's different categories, long headlines, short headlines, descriptions. So as you can see, it does become a decent amount of work, and I'll show you what some of those would look like in a second. But the goal is to build your asset group until you reach this excellent quality where you're going to get the most return for your money. This would be one other part of building that asset quality. And as you can see, this is the perfect place to use your keywords research as well. The little green arrows indicate that these are signals that are helping more people find your ad. So beyond just the content that you've put in for your ad, these additional signals are helping people discover your ad. And this is a great place for those terms that are kind of difficult to build into your site, like buy a whole cow butchered near me. Might not be very easy to integrate into your text on your site, but using it here kind of on the back end as a signal for your ad is a great place to use it. This is just to give you an idea of what goes into the asset group. So headlines are limited to 30 characters. Long headlines have 90 characters. Again, this is an AI opportunity because you can tell AI, these are all the topics I want to hit on. These are my keywords that I know I would like to include. I need 15 headlines. I need 5 long headlines. And of course, read it through carefully, iterate on what the AI suggests, but that can save you a lot of time because as you can see, it's a lot of content that you have to craft. I think that's enough said for that part. And then this is an example of what Google will produce with your asset group. So the ads that will appear in different places and in different combinations of what you've provided by having text, by having, listing particular products and prices, by including video, if connecting with your YouTube account and choosing some of your videos are all ways that you can make your ad look really great and give people different ways to interact with it that ultimately bring them to your website. Okay, and then we're on our last 2 slides here before a chance for some more questions. But the final kind of wrap up for this is that Google Ads do require maintenance. You may have some professional help to set them up, or you may not. But either way, you want to be checking on them. So viewing the analytics, comparing the cost of what you've spent to your purchases that have come in, and looking at the other conversion goals that you have, whether that's like someone adding something to cart, if it's creating an account on your website, or if you're driving, traffic to your farm store, it might be asking for directions locally. Looking at those conversions and making sure the results you're getting are worthwhile for the money that you're putting in. One nice thing is that Google will constantly be suggesting recommendations to improve the quality of your ad. So if you haven't gotten 5 photos or 5 videos or done all your headlines, or other things that it might suggest, it will give you recommendations to improve the quality of your ad. But I've noticed it always is recommending you to raise your budget. So that's the one where I don't always listen. If you have a budget, you can stick to that. Of course, I think it's always in their interest to say, like, you're doing $5 a day, you can get this more results if you do $7 a day, but stick to what you have available and what works for your farm. And then iterating, seeing what's working well. Like if you're doing a search ad, for instance, it will suggest these people found you through these other keywords, and then you have the opportunity to add those into your ad as well. And then updating seasonally. I like to at least have like a spring summer asset group and a fall winter asset group, just because there's different things you might want to be talking about. Like spring summer, you might want to have some headlines about grilling, whereas fall winter, you might want to highlight your holiday roasts. So you could have those two asset groups and turn them on and off based on what you have on offer at that time. Another would be like if you only, there might be 3 times throughout the year that you have half and whole beef, and maybe you turn that asset group on in the lead up to that to try to get those orders, but you don't need it to run all the time. Um, that's maintenance. And then the last part is just a resource to continue learning. I keep mentioning this because it's been so helpful for me, is SCORE, which has chapters across the country and excellent free webinars on digital marketing with experts. Like often there'll be an expert from Google leading a webinar on Google Ads. So it's such a great free way to learn that I wanted to make sure to highlight for you guys. And beyond that, if you have any questions about advertising or anything else, it looks like we have like 12 minutes left, and I'd be happy to answer any of those.
Thank you, Casey. I just shared with everyone to feel free to raise your hand if you have a question about the content or something specific about your ranch that you want to ask Casey. But in the meantime, would you mind reviewing a concept that you introduced early in the presentation about price setting and schema? Does that ring a bell?
Yes, definitely. Okay, so what I was trying to highlight there is schema is very important because basically Google and AI, they send out these robots that scrape your website and look for helpful information. And for your products, you want to offer all the types of information that they're trying to associate with the product. So that would be like the title, the description, the price of the product, whether or not it's in stock. The robots are basically looking for all of that information. So you want to present that. And then the challenge that I was presenting around price, and I'm trying to get back to this slide just to make it more clear. The challenge around price is this particular trade-off, which I've experienced for a couple of my clients who do pricing based on location. And the reason that they do that is people don't like to get to the end of their shopping process and see like a huge shipping charge at the end. They're used to seeing like free shipping or really low cost shipping, like $8, $10. But for those who ship, the actual cost of shipping a package often is like $30 or more. So the way that this pricing structure can help is you can build in the cost of pricing, and this is what the big companies are doing, building in a lot of that cost of shipping into the actual cost of the product. So if your ground beef is regularly $10 a pound, you can show it for a particular group of people who are in like a shipping category, show it to them as $12 a pound or $13 a pound. And by building that cost into the price of the product, it's less noticeable to the customer. And when they get to the end at their cart, maybe you only have to charge them $10 for shipping, which is something they're more comfortable with. So there's a lot of value to having your prices be different by location, like farm pickup would or ranch pickup would be the cheapest option. Um, Local delivery might be an intermediary, and shipping, nationwide shipping could present the need for the highest prices. So it can be a valuable tool, but I've noticed, for instance, when I view some of the clients that have that strategy, when I view those sites in SEMrush, which tells you like, or Google Console tells you like the issues with your website, it'll constantly be pinging to say like, we can't see the prices. This is an error because we can't see the prices associated with your product. And that would exclude you from some types of advertising like shopping with if you want to be in Google's shopping tab, you need to show your prices. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. I haven't noticed that it at all prevents those clients from getting sales or showing up in AI overviews, in search results. But I have noticed that it's something that the SEO tools will flag as an issue with your site.
Thank you for re-clarifying. And I don't see any questions for now, so I think that we might leave it there. Really thankful that people took the time to join us live. These webinars will be posted on my Cooperative Extension website as soon as we're done editing them, and everyone who registered will get those links. We'll also be sending out a follow-up email either this afternoon or tomorrow with the resources that Casey mentioned today. And if you have any questions or follow-up feedback about the content presented or what you might want to see next, feel free to reach out to me and we can take it from there. So Casey, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of your knowledge and expertise. This has been really helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I wish you all good luck.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.